Aloha, my name is Denzel. I'm originally from Hawaii, and I've been at Calvary for about a year. At the beginning of 2020, I had been going to a church out there in Texas for about a year and a half, but not really plugged in. And I had felt like there were several people in my life back home in Hawaii that were encouraging me to get plugged into the church. I got plugged into like a men's accountability group where we really just dive deep and trying to really learn about how your past hurts, habits, hangups really influence the course of your life if left unprocessed. And what I learned was how that father wound in my life, not having my dad in my life, really just was at a root cause of like different things I had wrestled with and like the different masks that I wear, performance-based. Anyways, God had led me into an opportunity to actually heal that relationship with my dad, because it came to the end of 2020. It came to the end of summer, and I had all this stuff lined up, with different jobs with the government, DOD and FBI and all those places, but they all fell through because of the pandemic. And I was coming to my last bit of savings in grad school. It's like I got 1 month left of rent. My dad had called me at the beginning of that month of July. He's like, hey, like I know you're still looking for a job, so you can come and stay with me. My wife and your sister is out here in Seattle if you want. And mind you, me and my dad talked. Like it was not like he just called me out of the blue. Like we talk regularly. But I was like, having learned what I learned through that group I was part of, I was like, no way. I was like, I felt like the Holy Spirit was telling me like, yeah, I want you to go and run through the fire and heal that relationship. And my dad's a Christian. He's actually a minister at a church out there in Lacey. But I was still going through that group. As we transitioned to online, so I was still going through that group, learning about my brokenness and processing through my trauma and things I had been through. And one day it was, me and my dad were working out on the lawn. I felt like the Holy Spirit was telling me to ask some questions that day. So I was like, all right, Dad, like, look, I don't really know you. Like, I don't really know you. I'm trying to get to know you. So I'm gonna ask you some questions. And he basically shared with me his story about how he grew up, different things he experienced growing up in New Jersey, and just the trauma that he had been through with his parents passing away young, being involved with gangs, being homeless, and then his military experience. And was talking to one of the guys, back in Texas. I was like, dude, like, this is crazy, because it's the whole thing, like, you don't know what you don't know, right? Like, for the longest time, I just thought that he was just absent on purpose, like he didn't care about us, like he just wasn't a loving father. But I had no idea about the things he had gone through growing up, things that he experienced in the Army, the PTSD, all that kind of stuff. I had no idea, because I had only different pockets of the story. So by being with my dad, after that conversation, like our relationship just flourished. I think it just gives me more of like an overflow of love or aloha, as we say in Hawaii, because I feel like just that healing, that spiritual heart surgery that I went through, that just you could talk to so many people back in Hawaii, or back in Texas, of course, that I keep in touch with, and they can just tell you that there's a difference between before, God healed my relationship with my dad to now. And it wasn't like I was like, an angry person all the time or whatnot, but there was definitely like an element of like being more shielded in being loving and passionate and affectionate toward people. Like I wasn't all about that, or being open, honest, and authentic. Like that wasn't me before, but I think I had felt the love from my father through that relationship. So now, like, it's easier for me to show that to others, especially fellow brothers that I meet, and say, hey brother, I love you, man, let me pray for you, let me give you a hug, and I wasn't like that before. I was like, I was a Christian, but I was kind of like Mr. Tough Guy, like I don't hug, like I'm a tough guy, you know what I mean? But now it's like, I know people call me, I'm like teddy bear, Hawaiian teddy bear, Having this healed relationship with my father, my earthly father, really helps me see God as a father as well. Because I had known that conceptually, like, oh yeah, God's your father, like, of course, but I didn't feel it until like I had that relationship with my daddy. Like, so I saw the Father through my father. So I thought that was just interesting. So now that's how I relate to God now. Like, yeah, he's King of Kings, but I'm like, no, that's my father. Like, it's like my dad. Like, so it makes it easier for me to trust God. So now I have a passion for that, like to live a life characterized by the Aloha Spirit, and to be used by the Holy Spirit to heal broken cisterns in people's lives, because we all have these brokenness in our lives that I feel like God can heal. It's like hard to conceptualize. Like I never thought like I'd have a relationship with my dad that I have now. Like I had thought like we are all dealt with certain cards in life, and like whether it's like you're poor or like you're uneducated, like I felt like some of those cards were changeable. Like you could change out some of those cards, but some of those were permanent. And I thought like not having a relationship with my dad was permanent. And I know that in my own life, had I not listened to the Holy Spirit leading me to Seattle, leading me to Texas, Nebraska, or anywhere else I'd been, I wouldn't be where I am today. And while it's true that it was difficult to go through the fire, as I would call it, to heal that relationship, to mend that bridge between my dad, I have no regrets. And I would do it all over again. Like I had my plan after graduating from Texas A&M, move to DC, start my career. But with God moving things in a certain way, like I would definitely pick the way that He did it over again. So.